Thank you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Hustler's Mindset. I got a very, very special guest, my family, my everything mentor slash colleague slash whatever you want, business entrepreneur, Joseph, aka Produkt. Thank you so much. Owner of Bodega Studios. You know, you introduce yourself, bro. Let's see.
Well, first and
for
foremost,
those who don't know, who are you?
Let's start here. Congratulations to my good brother Caesar and Laura in the background for this amazing podcast, A Hustler's Mindset. If I was not on this podcast, it would be fucking blasphemy. But I am very proud of my brother and sister here. These guys are extended family. They are consistently growing and thriving, and you know, a business that is dwindling for so much of you half-ass marketers. So kudos to them for continuing to evolve and thrive. And, you know, thank you for coming down to my wonderful establishment, or our wonderful establishment. Shout out to my partner, Frank. Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time and being here.
Hey, man, we needed to come out here because this is the spot. This is the dream. This is what we worked for. This is it. It would be fitting. I brought the whole studio to you because this is, for those who don't know, what is La Bodega? What is it?
So La Bodega is the one-stop shop for dreamers, for creators, for we are now expanding into, you know, our community aspect. We are now an official 501(c) nonprofit organization. We also have a for-profit, which is La Bodega NY, and our nonprofit is La Bodega BX, which we will be taking citywide, so every borough would have its own entity. We're the hub for creators. I wanted to build a facility that inspired the moment you walk through the doors. You know, something that made you feel like a child again. Something that made you feel like you could accomplish anything and do anything. So it was always a dream of mine to just take the outside and bring it inside, right? As a street kid, as a real hustler, as, you know, for people that have been following me and know my story and know the changes and ups and downs that I went through in my life, it was just a very important thing to me to give us a safe space for us to be able to create on, right? Because I spent my youth on street corners, rapping, hustling, and, you know, the streets of the Bronx could be a fickle thing. You know, the streets are unforgiving and things like that. So I wanted to give us a safe space to pitch on, right? Like a safe block that we all own, that we all control, that we can all come in and make our own, right? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to just create something that can be used by us all.
Fire, dude, fire. I mean, that's where the inspiration pretty much came from, right? And we'll dig a little deeper because this is all about mindset. So I really want to dig deep into what your mindset was at and how you got through a lot of the hardships that got you to where you are today. But at its core, again, it's basically a New York City block inside of a 5,000 square foot warehouse.
Indeed.
So
touched by some of the most greatest artists in New York City. So we have featured artwork in here by none other than the elitist of graffiti, which is Tats Crew. Shout to BG 183rd, shout to Bio, and shout to Nicer. We also have, of course, the infamous Danny Cortez, who made all the buildings and structures weathered and, you know, gave it that New York City dirty look. Shout to Shutter Ed and the team as well that did some of the build out. We have the bust that was done by the legendary Brooklyn graffiti artist Hugh Tech. Hugh Tech does a lot of amazing photorealism graffiti throughout the city. We have, you know, street artist Nero in here. If you are from the city, you know you've seen a Nero piece somewhere. He's my cousin too. I don't know him, but I know him, you heard? Yeah, man. So we are, you know, even in the lobby, it features, you know, Bronx photographers that are phenomenal artists that are close friends of mine. Shout to the Bronxer, Alex, shout to Francis, Slingshot. You know, these guys, you know, work with the biggest brands in the world now. You know, all of them, all of the artists I mentioned are some of the biggest artists in the world. And I'm lucky to call them my friends and was able to form, you know, Voltron and get this building to where it is. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yo, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this building, into this idea, into this concept. And I want to get a little bit, let's back up a little bit. Your hustle story is insane, right? Your hustle story goes way back. So take me back to when you first started getting that hunger. What was it that was like, I'm going to be a hustler. I'm going to need to drive. I'm going to need to, I want more. I want to, you know what I mean? How where'd you get there?
I mean, that's a great question. It all derives from my mom. So I watched my mom lose everything. Like this brownstone behind us is paying homage to a house that we lost when I was a kid.
Oof.
So our childhood home, when my father left my mother and he left us, my mother was a stay-at-home mom. So he left. And the bank came and they took our house and we were homeless and she was broke. So I watched my mother build from nothing to become one of the most successful people, you know, in her. She went to school for medicine. She became a respiratory therapist, and she ended up pioneering for Montefiore Medical Center, a pulmonary function lab for pediatrics. So she created it. She gave it to Montefiore. Montefiore scaled it throughout all their hospitals. Wow. You know, my mother's on Montefiore Medical Center. If you ever visit there, there's a huge picture of her on the building.
That's fire.
So like I literally watched my mother, you know, build herself from nothing as a single mother with 2 insane children. You know, and I also became a dad very young. I became a father when I was 15 years old. So, and I was a real dad. You know, I was a real father. I convinced my girlfriend at the time to have the baby. Like
you wanted it.
I wanted it. I wanted to be where my dad wasn't for me.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay. And
not to take shots at my dad. Me and him have a great relationship now, but it's just my truth. You know what I'm saying? Of my youth and how I came up. You know, we all make our mistakes. We all have our understandings as we become men ourselves. And, you know, shout to my dad too. But
your hustle. So I get what I'm hearing is it was passed down. You saw it from your mom. Your mom had that grit. Your mom got you through, you know, all of that. You saw that and then you took it. And when was it? When did it become your thing too?
So my brother was a gang member, right? And I never understood the gang member thing because ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. That was just always something that was instilled with me. But as he was a gang member, they made him hustle. So there was a moment, I'll never forget this moment, that he came home with a pack. And he's like, yeah, you know, I got this. I paid this for it, but I get to keep this. And in my head, I'm like, that math ain't mathing because, you know, it sounds like they taking the lion's share shit and you making nothing off of this. But I'm like, if I buy this the way I'm supposed to buy this, I can make all this money. So I just fell in love with it immediately.
Like, you fell in love with the money, with the game, or like what was it?
The idea of flipping money.
Okay.
So I was very, very, very young at this time. I must have been 11, 12-ish. Damn. Yeah, I was I was getting in trouble very, very young. Not something I'm proud of, but I went through the system at 11 years old. Like I caught my first case at 11 years old. I was on felony probation at 11 years old. Like I've been through a lot when it comes to, you know, my youth and my story and things that we were involved in and doing and things like that. But I'll never forget that moment that I first saw like my first pack and the idea of, oh, I could do this. All my friends smoke. Like I could do this. I could take this. I could make money. I could make this real. You know, we didn't have much. My mom was struggling to you know, to give us what she could.
Right.
And, you know, it was a real tough time for us. So that was like the one pivotal moment that turned the hustler on in me that I'll never forget.
You got the taste of it. And then fast forward, you just went.
Because my brother wasn't a hustler. Chris was like, he was just a violent motherfucker. He just loved beating people up. And he was good at it. You know what I'm saying? But he never could make money. Like even when I had him hustling for me, he always fucked the money up. Even when, no matter what, my brother was just not good with the bread. He was good. He was like the enforcer. And I was just always really good with money. I was the little kid that I saved all my singles. I used to have a shoebox full of all nickels, dimes, quarters. Every dollar I got, Christmas, birthday, anything, I was the kid with stacks of money like this. The little kid. My mother's like, what the hell?
Was it more of like you knew how to make deals, or you knew how to, make money out of something? Like, what was it?
I always felt like I was like a natural salesman.
Okay.
Like from when I was young, because I was always sort of selling myself. You know what I'm saying? The girls, to my friends. Like, I was always kind of selling something. Even in school, I was like hustling candy.
Yeah.
I was like, before any of the drug shit came, I was always like an entrepreneurial spirit. I saw my grandfather, right? My mother was a very proud woman. So my grandfather had a successful business. But when we were struggling, my mother refused to like admit it to her parents. So she went through her woes instead of going to cry to daddy to help her out her thing. But I used to see my grandfather had a business. He was successful. I saw him always with chains. He was the one always buying stuff. And I'm like, damn, like, I want to be like grandpa. Like, grandpa not working for nobody. Grandpa's like doing it,
Yeah.
So he was like that first role model for me too, that I was like, I don't want a job. I don't want to work for nobody. And I always, just very young, I just always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I used to try to sell drawings. I used to try to sell crayons. I used to try to sell whatever I had that somebody wanted. I would try to put a value to it and get some money.
Was it the love for the money, or just because you could?
Nah, money all day, all day long. Because I was the kid in Skippies.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I wasn't the Jordan kid. Shout out to my best friend in elementary school, Nelson. His parents, they were together, and he had all the flyest shit you could ever want. Like Averex. This is my first Averex. I'm 40 years old. And shout to Zara and Averex because they gave it to me. I didn't even buy it. He was just the flyest. Like, I was the kid that didn't have much. I'm in slacks, I'm in skippies, I'm in little polos, whatever. My mother always made sure we looked amazing, but we weren't wearing name brand shit. Like, I remember my first FUBU jersey, like the 05 jerseys. Like, that was a big fucking deal to me.
Yeah.
My FUBU jersey. I didn't take that shit off. I was wearing it like every day to school because it was like my name brand piece. It was like my badge of honor and shit.
All right. So fast forward, right? You started hustling, you started making money, then you became a father, right? Relatively quick. Did that fire you up even more? How was that?
It did, but it fired me up in the really wrong direction. That's when I really jumped into the street in a real big way. I'm not going to get into none of that stuff,
right,
but it just really put me in a really dangerous position. And like, as soon as my daughter was born, I just jumped all the way out the window to try to provide. And I almost lost my life. I almost lost my freedom. A lot of my friends lost their freedom, lost decades of their lives. A lot of my friends were shot. A lot of my friends were killed. And, God himself literally saved me from these situations. And my boy Heck Nice, shout to Heck Nice. He was like single-handedly responsible for like helping me. I had a gut feeling in the situation that I was involved in, and the world collapsed literally as soon as I left around everybody I was with. And it was one of those eye-opening moments for me. But when my daughter was born, I became very, very entrenched in the streets and things like that.
There's a mindset lesson there when it's like, all right, you had a kid, you said what drove you was your need to provide, but at the cost of what?
Of everything. So being a young dad, I had no idea what it was to be a father. I had no idea what it was to be a husband, right? Because I married my kid's mom. I had no idea how to love them properly. I thought the idea of being a husband and a dad was paying for shit. Right. So as long as we can go on vacation, as long as we have nice apartments, as long as we have nice cars, like, I'm the best dad in the world. So, and I was still present. You understand what I'm saying? But I definitely ruled with like an iron fist. Gotcha. I was the dad. I wanted the house clean. I was the husband. I wanted the house clean. I wanted my kids doing chores. I wanted them to listen. I wasn't physically abusive in any way. That Puerto Rican dad.
Right.
I think I hit my daughter one time in her whole life, and she was an adult. And my son got clapped around a couple times, but he had it coming. Shout out to Aaliyah and Joey, my children, my world.
Yeah.
But
so you dove head first, you dove deep, you found out that there's another side of going too hard. Yeah. Right. And then was that around where music? Because quick thing, right? You are a full-blown artist. Right. You do have music, you have fans, you've been bleeding them dry for new music, which is coming at some point.
It is.
But when did that happen?
So I was writing from a very, very young age. I used to write stories and I used to draw the pictures. I used to make my own books and staple them together with like construction paper. I was always writing. Then writing went into poetry. Then poetry went into rap. So, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was not like the gangster rapper kid. My brother was West Coast out, Tupac, Bone Thugs and Harmony, all the gangster shit you could imagine from the late 80s, 90s. My brother was into it. I was Mariah Carey, fucking 112, Backstreet Boys, anything R&B that you could think of, I loved. I loved Aaliyah. I named my daughter Aaliyah after Aaliyah. I was in the chorus as a kid. I wanted to sing so bad. I wanted to have a voice so fucking bad. Like, can I make this up?
Yeah.
But I loved music from a very young age. And I just want to send a big thank you to Miss Dwyer. She was my choir coach in IS 131 in Soundview. And the way she conducted the choir really birthed my love for music. We had some incredible singers. We had some incredible talent at that time. We used to do concerts yearly, and these fucking things were like summer jam. There was so much talent in the school that people were losing their mind at the incredible dances, the incredible singers. It was really a time that will never be duplicated. You know,
and that fed your hustle.
Yeah,
right.
It fed that inspiration to create music. And growing up getting a little older, when I started getting in trouble, I started leaning toward the gangster music because now my heart was still in this R&B stuff, but my actions were now in this gritty area. Now I'm fighting. Now I'm getting arrested. Now I'm hustling. My life is changing. So the narration of my life is also changing. The background music of my life is changing because now I'm feeling what these motherfuckers are saying. Now it's resonating with me in a different way because I'm outside trying to be a tough guy. You know what I mean? Like, so it just started to hit a little different, and I started rapping. My boy Flock, who's on his way here, he's actually calling my phone like crazy. Me and Randy Mason, who is also a pillar in the Bronx school system and hip hop and what he teaches. He's a teacher of hip hop. He's doing a lot of amazing things with Thrive Collective. But we started freestyling together. Him and Tito, my boy David. So they were rapping, and I had just moved to the neighborhood, and I just dove in. I'm like, oh, that's dope. And I just started rhyming with him. And then we just got better and better and better. And we spent years just drinking, rhyming, freestyling. Then the freestyling became, we're going to spend some money on studio time. Started making records, started recording ourselves. And we got good enough where people wanted to sign us and work with us. And, then it just snowballed into this whole thing. And, that's how La Bodega became. And I was like the one that nobody really wanted to work with when they were like the best, when Randy was killing it. And, they had started something called Bronx Zoo with Mel Murder out of Saquon, out of Soundview, Randy Mason, and my boy Flock's uncle, Woo Woo. They started this label, Bronx Zoo, and I was like the nigga that wasn't nice enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that shit started to like really get to me. So I really started honing in on my craft and just getting doper and spending money, and I bought my own studio. And
So there's a mindset lesson there, right? Because people were telling you that you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
And you chose to use that as fuel instead of quitting.
Absolutely.
Or instead of stopping.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that.
So I'm very competitive. Like, I'm an Aries. I'm undefeated. So you may win in the moment. You may win the battle, but you're absolutely not winning the war. And anybody that crosses me in any way, whether God handles it or I handle it, you are never going to win. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to let it. And neither is the universe or God. Like, I'm too righteous for that shit. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, when
Smite thee.
Yeah, exactly. So don't play with me.
But because you believed in yourself.
Absolutely.
To the point of
delusion. Absolutely. I still do. I was looking at a penthouse apartment and I'm talking to the realtor and they're like, well, you have to live in reality. And I was like, let me tell you something. I would not be looking at this penthouse if I ever lived in reality.
Oof.
If I ever lived in reality, I would not be coming to move into a space like this.
Oof.
So don't talk to me about reality because I've never lived there.
That's my clip right there. Yo, that's so true, man. You have to have a level of delusion if you're gonna make it anywhere.
But it has to be certainty. It's not, some people can operate like with a false sense of faith, right? Like, it's like someone that is just so bad at something, but it's like real delusion, like somebody that can't even walk, but they think they're going to be a fucking Olympic gymnast or some shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that is like, yeah.
You have to be real with yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing I would say. It's not about reality, but it's about accountability. If you're not willing to put in the 10,000 hours to become the best version of something, don't sit here and act like you're going to half-ass it and then become great at it. You got to do that self-audit and make sure that you're doing what it takes to become great. Like, greatness is earned. You just don't wake up one day. Some people are blessed in that way. The Chris Browns and Justin Biebers and Michael Jacksons of the world. And
even they had to work.
Right.
Even they had to work for that shit too. Yeah.
Absolutely. They had to hone, but some people are naturally talented with things. I was never natural at anything. I had to earn everything that I became.
Yeah. And at some point, right, especially during that music part of your life is when you started making partnerships. You met Frank. We met Frank, right? Because that's really right around there, a little bit more towards the middle is when we met. Right. And when I had met Frank, but Frank had already been with you for like a couple years.
Yep.
At that point. How did that happen?
So meeting Frank was, again, just my pure hustle. So I had went to jail. I was incarcerated. While I was in jail, I got my GED and the schooling enrolled me in the Institute of Audio Research, which was like the biggest thing back in the day. IAR was all over the radio. It was like the best thing in the city if you wanted to get into the music business through the back door. So I came home and I immediately started this school and I ended up meeting some people. And at the time I came home, I was still involved in the street and things like that. So I had a bunch of money. And somebody I met at the school, unfortunately, their mom had passed away. And she was wrongly killed by a hospital. And he had a lawsuit. So he had a bunch of money. So he took 20 grand that he had. I took 20 grand that I had, and we bought a studio. We bought audio equipment. So from that point on, I was putting my music everywhere. All of my boys owned barbershops and things like that. So I was putting my posters in all the barbershops. I was giving my CDs to all the barbershops.
The real grind, yeah.
And I would tell my boys that own the shops, like, yo, don't sell the tape. If you know somebody that really fucks with rap music, just give it to them. As a part of the haircut, a part of the package, just give them my tape for free.
Interesting.
Just so they could check it out. And Frank was one of those people. At the time, Frank had just got Big Lou signed to Street Sweeper, and he had just sold his contract or something. He had cashed out in whatever music thing he was doing, but he was still very big in the music shit. So he finds me, he finds my CD, and this is like when Jeremy Lin Mania was happening, and he's like, yo, I'll pay you $1,500 to write me a song about the Jeremy Lin thing. Like, I want to try to sell it to the Knicks. And at first I'm like, damn, $1,500? Like, all right, but I'm like not that type of artist. Like, I'm not like a jingle type of artist. Like, I really have to write what I feel and right. Authentically have to be attached to it. Or
tell your story. Or
it just has to be a really genuine thing for me to, like, I could write anything, but I just don't want to be that level of artist. I never have. Right. So I turned them down. And I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. Like, I'm not a gimmick. That's not what I do. Like, I appreciate the offer, but I'm good.
Yeah.
So he ended up actually respecting me more because I turned away this bread and I wouldn't compromise who I was. So we continued conversations, and he became my manager. And then from my manager, he became my partner in the label. And then the label started taking off. We started signing artists that's also found their own success. Yeah. And you know, and now we here. Now we
Yeah.
partners in La Bodega 10 years later.
Yeah.
So-
That's literally the beginning of it all,
Yeah,
you know?
that's the
So,
origin story.
That's
But
so
he
cool.
would have never walked. He would have never knew who I was if I wasn't out there grinding. I was a dad. I was a father of two in a marriage, taking care of a house, working a job, hustling, not sleeping, being a full-time artist. Like I was grinding unapologetically, and that's what put me in the position to who I became today.
Yeah. How did that feel when it's like, it's one thing you believing in yourself, but when you have proof that someone believes in you just as much or maybe even more than you believe in yourself, how does that affect you?
I mean, that goes back to like that self-audit and that accountability. So now it's proof of concept. So now your confidence grows because you go from delusion to fact.
Oof.
Because now somebody's like, yo, you're probably the dopest person I've heard in mad long. Let's figure out how we can make you even better. So now it's like you got a road dog, you know what I mean? Like you got somebody that could fight just as good as you and likes to fight just as much as you. And shout to Frank because he's a fucking animal when it comes to shit.
He's a beast, bro. He's a beast.
Like
I love that dude.
Yeah, he's an animal when
No
it
matter
comes
what,
to anything.
he teaches me things without talking to me.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk to me, but I still learn.
Yeah, now we
just watch and you learn.
We do so much business together now, inside and outside of La Bodega. Like we have phone calls where he's talking to me for hours.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like I stop every fucking thing.
Game.
You listen when
game.
success is talking.
Yep.
And he's been my mentor and a teacher of mine, more like a fucking father of mine for the past 10 years, you know? And it's been a tough relationship too. Like we've cursed each other out, not spoken for years. You know, I was real hard-headed. I was real hard-headed. I didn't understand. I wasn't ready to embrace the things that he knew I had to embrace to be a successful artist. I wasn't willing to compromise myself, even you guys.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't doing TikTok dances.
Yeah.
I'm not feeding the algorithm the bullshit. You know, I was a real fucking gangster. And not a pretend one, not a fake one. My life was the street, and it was the worst time of my life and the best time of my life at the same time. And when I decided to grow up and stop being a young idiot, then my life became real because it was like a false reality I was living. So when I finally grew up and became a real man and stopped with that stupid street mentality, everything changed. Now the things that you told me, even you guys, I was like, damn, I should have did it. Right. The stuff that Frank used to tell me, I'm like, damn, I should have did it. I would have been a successful artist somewhere if I would have just played the game.
You were on your way, bro.
I know. My problem was I was always putting everybody in front of me, from the Frank Benzes to the Elaine Crystals. I put my career on hold to try to make other people's dreams come true. And that was always my biggest, you know, the biggest issue that I had too.
Right.
I was never really concerned about myself all the way. I always wanted to take care of people. So that hurt my career a lot too.
All right, well, let's do a fun segment that I've been starting, and it's pretty dope. It's like a mindset minute, like a rapid fire.
Okay.
You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, sometimes it ends up not being that rapid because we go deep, but let's try to go as fast as we can. You ready?
I'm ready.
Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Early mornings. You're an early morning
5
guy.
5 a.m. riser. Yeah, for sure.
First job ever?
First job ever.
Legal one.
First job ever was, I don't want to fuck this up. I detailed cars with my stepdad. Shout to Ray, shout to Renee. He had us detailing doctors' cars.
All right.
And that was like my first legitimate income.
Nice, nice. Biggest lesson the Bronx has taught you?
Oof. The streets are unforgiving.
Love that. What's harder, starting a business or sustaining it?
Sustaining.
Yeah.
It's very easy to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. You know what? A lot of people have a hard time even jumping, even starting.
A lot of people aren't meant to be business people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. And even if you start, you end up stopping just to start something again or to start something different, and you end up never sustaining it.
Right.
You know, which is another whole nother thing. But for you, definitely, and for most, I guess, you know, sustaining is definitely harder. One word to describe entrepreneurship for you.
Resilience. Resilience. Sorry for the asshole that banged on the gate.
Most underrated skill as an owner.
Accounting.
yeah. Counting that fucking money, bro. That is, and spending it correctly.
Correctly, right. Not spending it at all, but what you need to spend it on.
Yeah. Best advice you ever ignored?
Ooh, good fucking question. Best advice I ever ignored. You have to be able to evolve to survive. I was stuck in what I thought I had to be, which was the same shit. So the best advice that I ignored, which I obviously started listening to, was I needed to be able to be comfortable with change. And for a long time, I didn't want shit to change.
Now, on the flip side, worst advice you actually followed?
I never follow bad advice. You know, I never follow bad advice. I can't say that I have.
Okay. What's more for you, money or impact?
Impact.
Impact is bigger for you.
Yeah, I've never chased money. Only like when it comes
when you were
to
younger,
art,
right?
Yeah, when it comes to art, no, as an artist,
yeah.
You know, everyone is chasing money at some point in their life. But when I became an artist in the world, it was never about bread. Like my dream to this day is just standing in a stadium and watching tens of thousands of people sing my words, whether it's me as the artist or something I wrote for someone else. I just want to see a stadium singing my shit. That's still on
impact.
It's still on my bucket list.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it. But it's always been impact for sure.
Biggest fear when you started?
Biggest fear was like I wouldn't survive. Like I wouldn't be free or I wouldn't be alive.
Right.
That was my biggest fear.
Yeah, perspective, people. A lot of people are worried about all the shit.
Yeah.
Stupid shit. You were like survival.
Yeah, literally. Literally.
What keeps you up at night now?
That's a great question. Just wanting to make sure that when it's all said and done, you know, my kids have, you know, their kids, and, you know, that the generational wealth is bulletproofed. So I'm still in pursuit of bulletproofing that generational wealth. So I'll be able to sleep a lot better in the next 2 to 5 years.
Fire. One habit you swear by?
My morning routine.
Yeah?
So I wake up early.
You're one of those, you put Saratoga water in your face? You're one of those guys?
Nah, I get up, I make my coffee. You know, I have a beautiful view of Manhattan, and I just sit there and watch the world come alive. So I say my mantras. I'm not going to say what I say, but I do push-ups. I do 70 clip real quick. I stretch. I do 70 push-ups real quick. I drink my little protein shake. I drink my coffee. I watch the world come alive while my dog is whining for me to take him out. But I reflect, you know, and I speak to my not only desires, but my goals, my focuses, you know, what I need as far as, you know, discipline, dedication, my routine. I'd say my morning routine.
Fire. One habit you've had to break?
Smoking weed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Some people, you know, some people. I've had to stop too a lot. I've slowed down a lot. But some people need it or need that, like something to either for anxiety or for whatever.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad for the mental aspect of it. At the end of the day, you know, your lungs and your heart are the most important things you have. And smoking and combustion is just bad for your body. So I've been smoking since I was 11 years old. Like, you have to start holding yourself accountable for the damage that you're putting on this vessel. We only got one body.
Okay, that's valid. Biggest win nobody knows about.
Yeah, still not gonna know. These days the wins just keep coming. Even my losses are wins because they're the biggest lessons. Even the betrayals are wins because, it's like flattery. Like I'm watching all these people, there's just so much happening around.
Yeah. There's some stories we still got to tell.
Yeah, there's a lot happening, and, a loss isn't a loss. It's just a learning opportunity. Like, it's just a lot of the wins just don't stop.
Yeah. All right. Comfort or growth?
Growth.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you want to be comfortable, right? But nah, that's not where growth is.
That's not what growth is.
Yeah. Gut instinct or data?
That's a tough one. You can't deny the numbers, but I live off of my instinct too. But you cannot deny the numbers, so I'm going to say data.
Data.
I'm going to say
numbers
data.
never lie.
Right.
But gut is important, so follow that too.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy or lifestyle?
Legacy.
Legacy. You want to be remembered.
Absolutely.
What's your? How would you want to be remembered?
So the dream has always been to inspire, to show people that pain, that loss, that tragedy, that poverty is universal, and the strength to overcome all of that is literally in your own tenacity and literally in your own will to push and be resilient and survive. You are either going to be a victim or you are going to be a victor. It's up to you. People are built with this victim mentality, and they think that someone has to come save them. And it's never going to happen. Someone shows up when you start showing up. When you start showing up for yourself and you stop worrying about where the helping hand is coming from, all of a sudden the floodgates are just going to open. So that victimizer mentality and thinking that the world owes you something has to be the first thing that you remove. And you have to work, believe, and just go, man. Like, just go.
Man, I could talk to you for days, right? We have to actually do like a part 2, part 3, something, you know what I mean? Because
we have Say Something comedy show going on tonight.
We have a whole comedy show being set up right now in the background.
Doors open in 20 minutes.
We are crazy for even doing this. I thank you so much for just the beginning of this story. It feels like we're like halfway through, you know what I mean? But okay, so before we go though, one thing you would tell an entrepreneur that's either at the beginning of their journey, the middle of their journey, or even if they're at their peak. One thing you could say to an entrepreneur right now to help them in that journey.
Stay ahead of the curve, right? Watch for trends, watch industry, pay attention to what's changing, and figure out how to leverage that. In any business, in every business, the goal is leverage. Like people wake up and they're like, oh, I want to start a pet store, right? I started a pet store. I started a toy company. They've helped me start so many fucking companies that I've abandoned. It's not even funny. And I had no leverage in those spaces. I realized that real success comes from optimizing where you can leverage. So always look for that angle where you can leverage and exploit something. If you don't have it, don't do it.
Oof. That's bars right there. I'm going to close out with that this episode. We'll get together for the next one and keep it going.
I'm here.
Thanks again so much for doing this. I am now going to record everything in this place. Thanks again, bro. Joseph, take it bye to everybody.
It's been a pleasure. Make sure you follow us at La Bodega NY on Instagram, or follow me at I Am Produkt on Instagram, www.labodegany.com. Look us up. A lot of activations going on. A lot of beautiful things happening with this building. A lot of activations we are doing for the children in the community with our 5013C this year. I thank you guys again for your time, and we are about to,
let's do it.
Get into this comedy show now.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Peace.